So this is my 2008 Road King Classic. I believe that's an FLHRC. Brake light is on, as you can see. So I'll show you what I did to kind of troubleshoot this. The first thing I did was I looked for some information on the internet about the brake light circuit. So there's two switches on the Harleys. The one for the rear is located right here. That is a pressurized brake line, so that switch is activated when it sees pressure. The other one is up here on the handlebar, and it is part of that system. Now I already know from a little bit of troubleshooting that it's going to be on the rear. So if we remove one side of this and come back, so the key here is you just don't want to twist that part off. Okay. So as you can see, there's very minimal room to work on this. Alright, so that's good. We lost very little brake fluid. Of course, I did keep the circuit closed. If you had a bleeder valve open, or if you had your master cylinder open, it will come out of there a lot more. You don't want to over tighten it and strip it out. Okay, so the next part of this is to bleed the brake system. So you need to make sure you get the right brake fluid. Usually it is marked somewhere on the motorcycle. So I'll get you a shot here. You can look. I looked at the bottom master cylinder and the one on the handlebar. So the one on the handlebar, I don't know if you can read it. It says use only .4 fluid. So when we run by the hardware, the auto parts store, we'll just pick up some .4. We'll just get a small one. This is a pretty tight system. We're not going to need a lot of that. And then we'll get set up and we'll bleed the brake system. Okay, so this is the rear brake reservoir, number 2 Phillips. So I just loosen those off, and then you pull the cover off. And this, I'm going to call it a boot, comes out of here. And we'll end up adding fluid here. And we will put our there it is. So right here is the bleeder. So that is where we're going to attach the hose from the vacuum pump. And so this is the vacuum pump I'm going to be using. It's just a inexpensive version. Probably picked it up at the hardware or local auto parts store years ago. So let me get you put on a tripod so I have both hands free, and we'll get going with this. Okay, so I got us all set up here. got the line cracked, and we're going to start pulling fluid in. I don't know if you can see it in that hose, but you should see the canister start filling up. Right now it's got 10 pounds of vacuum dropping. I'm going to keep an eye up here. Pulling down quick, so we're going to add some more. Alright, so we will end up flushing this whole system, which never hurts. Get new, fresh brake fluid in there. And I see new fluid coming in. Also saw some air bubbles come out earlier. If you notice, we are building vacuum and it's slowly leaking off, which means the bleeder valve is cracked just enough that we're getting this fluid pulled through at a steady rate. If you're not careful, you can pull air back into the system if you have the bleeder valve wide open. So I'm looking at the sight glass, and we're starting to pull down just to the top of that sight glass. When we get there, I'm going to release the pressure on the pump. Okay. Now we've still got fluid up to here, so we're not getting any air back in. I'm going to go ahead and take my wrench and get that closed down. I'm going to go ahead and take my box end wrench here, get this closed. Not too tight with the box end wrench. We want to save that. And I'm going to use the pump to get a vacuum on here so that when I break this seal, it's going to suck the rest of this fluid into the pump. Just like that. Okay, so we pulled 3 ounces of fluid through that system, which is a little more than what the system holds to begin with. So we've completely flushed it. We've got all our air bubbles out. I'm going to take my line wrench, make sure I have this nice and snug. Again, you don't want to over tighten it. Get the rubber boot dropped on the floor. get that covered back up. Critical. Okay, so what I've done here is I've put the cover in, or the gasket into the cover. Gasket boot. I'm going to orient the lettering the correct direction. Okay, slip that in there, and now we are going to tighten. Let's try this again. Get a different set of screwdriver here. I'll tighten both sides evenly. So I tightened that screw till that side started to pull down. Went to the other side and just work it back and forth. Make sure you get a nice even torque on it. It's a little hard to reach with this screwdriver, so I'm going to use my L-shaped screwdriver. Okay, so something I want to point out about brake fluid. Once you open brake fluid, you need to make sure you seal it. And then what I do is I will put this inside a Ziploc bag and squeeze as much of the air out as I can. It's going to draw moisture sitting on the shelf, and then if it's a couple of years later you come in here to get it, there's a good chance you're going to have moisture in here contaminating the fluid. You put it in the bike or whatever vehicle you're using it on, and then you contaminate the entire system. So just make sure that you store it properly. If you're in doubt, don't use it. It's not worth the heartache that it will create. So hope you learned a little something off this video. Enjoy your ride.